Grin coming right at your face. Episode 1. Welcome to the show. This is Chico, a.k.a. Steven Gomez, and I'm here with my partner in crime,
John Grin, a.k.a. John Smalls, a.k.a. Arbot Smalls.
There you go. And we're here for our first episode, the first podcast in a series that we're doing, an ongoing series, and it's going to be on everything and anything. We're just going to talk freely about topics that we think about throughout our day, and it's kind of a way for us to vent and share ideas. Just a little bit about each of us. We're both artists living in New York City. I'm a photographer. And John, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
No, shit. All right. I'm a visual artist, illustrator, graphic designer, painter. Just all around creative guy. Like Gomez, just living in the city, enjoying the five boroughs, and just trying to push things to the limits and trying to do more. This podcast basically is just gonna be us, talking about everything that we're involved in, our interests, political, social, science stuff, all types of fuckery.
Just all kinds of things.
Yeah, all types of things.
We're gonna be talking about art, politics, conspiracy theories, just like John said. Don't get offended. This is just good fun, good humor. Sometimes, or most of the time, may be pretty serious, but we're just gonna talk about whatever it is we find interesting. If you find anything offensive,
turn the channel.
Just deal with it. It's 2017. You don't have to listen to it. So let's get right into it.
But you know what? I'm glad that you said that, because one thing I like to tell people, like, especially if you post something online, people were like, oh, that's this, that's that. It hurts my feelings, and fuck that. If I post something or if I say something that's not meant to be hateful, and you take it as a hateful message, and I'm not trying to be hateful for it, but your panties stuck in a bun. Why? You gotta ask yourself, like, why does that bother you?
Exactly. I see that all the time online. People post things. I post things, and people find a way to get offended. I don't know if it's just the times that we live in. I don't know if it's just people looking to signal one another that saying, hey, I'm cool. I get it, or what. But I see people get upset over the littlest things, and I don't know, man. Like, I don't think I'm very sensitive. It takes a lot to offend me. It takes a lot to make me mad, but man, just anything will piss people off these days.
Yeah, it's like you can't even talk about politics without touching somebody's nerves, or you can't talk about social issues without somebody trying to be social justice warrior and say, oh, you can't say that, you can't do this. Or,
right, it's crazy.
I remember back in the day, it used to be like politically correct. Everybody trying to be PC. Now everybody's just trying to be a social justice warrior, fight for some cause that has absolutely nothing to do with them.
Right. It's like not even about being PC. It's like, I mean, the idea of PC is, you talk in a way that you are aware of people's feelings, and you try not to overly offend. I think you try not to be crass, but now it's been taken to a whole new level where it's like, any little word that they don't agree with, any phrase, even, I've seen, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the stuff that's been going on at that college. I forgot the name of it at the moment, but
Olympia, that college in Washington.
Yeah, I think it's that one where the professor didn't, like, they had a day of where they didn't want white professors or teachers to come to school.
Yeah, that's it.
And they were upset over the head of the school, his hand gestures when he was talking. They were saying they were overly aggressive, and that's just taking it to just such a degree that's like, it's. He, from what I can tell from watching the video, he was just doing normal hand gestures people make when they talk, and they were like, those were very aggressive. It's just like, it's too much. It's too much, and it takes away from actual outrage that you could have about something serious, like the complete and utter disrespect for Philando Castile. Like, that is, for me personally, that's a big deal for numerous reasons. One being that, I have always been a fan of the NRA. I always thought the NRA was, I always thought they got a bad rap, but after that situation where they refused to comment on a legal gun owner who had a license, who informed the police, who did all the right things that they tell you to do when you're carrying a gun, when you encounter law enforcement, he did all the right things, and he was still shot. And he was still shot in front of his wife or girlfriend, I believe.
His girlfriend and his kid.
Right. And the NRA would not stand up for him, and they stand up for every other gun owner that happens to not be black.
Yeah. And
they condemn the government or whoever it might be that wishes to infringe upon the Second Amendment, but they didn't stand up for Philando. And that really pissed me off, like, to a degree that to the point where I don't tweet about anything, but I tweeted directly at the NRA. And while that might sound funny, because we all know about Twitter activists and how we all make fun of social media activism, that's the only way I could directly contact somebody at the NRA. And that's, I felt like it was to the point where I needed to speak up and tell them that what they're doing, as a gun owner is not okay.
It's like even if you take out the race aspect of that situation, it's a fucked up situation.
All around, it's terrible.
It's not even fucked up. It's horrific. For someone to be obeying a law, to do everything they're supposed to be doing, when there's a situation with law enforcement, announcing that he has a weapon on the scene and saying he's going to get his identification, and like he's doing everything he's supposed to be doing, and then a law enforcement officer just murders him like that in front of his family.
Yep. I mean,
and gets away with it.
Exactly. And
like,
and
fuck, man.
It's crazy because you would think if somebody was attempting to shoot you, they wouldn't tell you that they have a gun, right?
It's like the thing that pisses me off about all these police shootings, and I'm not talking about like the shit that goes on in the hood or the low income community where it's like a shootout,
Right.
Or when someone is strapped and they busting at the police. Nothing like that. I'm talking about like the situations where the person is innocent.
Right, he hasn't done anything.
Or even if, like Sandra Bland, when they're pulled over for a broken taillight or whatever it was, something minor that the citizen is attacked with force from law enforcement. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, no, it's
crazy.
It's crazy, and it's even crazier because, again, what I'm gonna say, and I'm sure this will rustle some jimmies if we have any police officers listening, but I find not all of them, but I find generally a lot of police officers feel like they're due some kind of respect, or more respect than you would than an average person would be due, because they're a police officer. And while I think it's important that we have police and that they, uphold the law or whatever it is that they do, aside from collect revenue for the state and for the government, I think they need to be reminded that they cannot at will just harm a citizen. They are a public servant. They're there to serve the public, who pay taxes, which in turn pay their salaries. And I think they need to be reminded that it's not okay to swing your badge around and, use force against the public, especially innocent people. I mean, it's one thing when it's one thing when the police encounter a situation where force is necessary, where they're dealing with an armed, aggressive suspect, they're going into a situation that could very well be very volatile. But in the case of Sandra Bland, she was pulled over for a taillight. The cop did not like the fact that she refused to put out her cigarette, which, in all honesty, she shouldn't have to. It's her car. She's in her personal property. If she wants to smoke in it, that doesn't stop the police officer from being able to issue whatever ticket he wants to. He didn't like the fact that she was disrespecting him and that he thought he was due some kind of respect because he had a badge. And with Castile, it's the same thing. The police officer clearly was afraid that he would shoot him, but there's no reason why he should have thought that. Castile was a legal gun owner. He told the cop in advance, before ever reaching for the glove box, that there was a gun in there. It just so happened that the gun and the registration that he needed to provide the cop were in the same box. Yes, it's unfortunate they were both in the same box, but by the same token, there was no reason why the cop should have been afraid. I mean, it doesn't take a master genius to know that if somebody's going to shoot you, they're not going to tell you they're going to shoot you before they shoot you. It's outrageous.
It's bullshit, and when I see things about these cases, and there's a shit ton of them, there's a list, it just continues to grow. It bothered, hold on. Oh, so, what really irks my nerves, and for all y'all who don't know, like Gomez, Chico, he's Puerto Rican. I'm a black man. We both look different. So some of the things that we're going to talk about, I'm going to do my best to leave race out because I don't want to focus on the race. I want to show people how fucked up shit is in general, so I don't want to just sit there and say, oh, shit's fucked up because they're blacks or we're blacks or this, that, and the other. Like, shit is fucked up. Like, whenever a cop kills a citizen, an unarmed citizen, everybody should be up in arms about that shit.
Right, I agree.
Not just blacks, not just browns. Like everybody, because that's a citizen being killed. Like when kids are being killed by cops. Like there was that one kid, I think it was in Cleveland. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was in Cleveland. The kid was playing with a toy gun. The cop comes out, shoots the damn kid, and then they come to find out the cop has a history of mental disorders, some shit. And I was like, that's bullshit.
Right.
He shouldn't even be a police officer.
Right. I mean, even if police officers pull onto the scene and there's a child with a gun, you would think the first thing that they would say was put the gun down.
Like in Philando Castile's case, right? His girlfriend did the Facebook Live thing, and you see the murder. Everybody saw the murder, right? But even as she's recording it, and she's talking to a police officer with a gun pointed at her, and she's being calm and respectful.
Yep.
And that cop just killed somebody.
Isn't
He's
that crazy?
being crazy. It's like, what the fuck?
Not to mention there's a child in the back of this car.
Yeah.
Who's also terrified.
And it's like, this dude gets away with a murder, and they're criminalized for what?
You know what's even scarier? I watched an intro that, what's his name? The guy who does the Daily Show now.
Yeah, Trevor
Noah. He did a piece about it, and he said the most disturbing part was the fact that it went to trial and that the group of his peers, of Philando Castile's peers, found the police officer not guilty. Not so much that that it's the police or that a single judge made the call, but a group of peers decided that it was self-defense of what the police officer did, which is absolutely, and he's right, it's so crazy to think that a group of people, however many jurors there are, 12 or whatever, decided that what that police officer did was justified and correct. Even after seeing all the tapes, all the evidence, hearing the play, they saw things on the tape. They saw versions of the shooting that even the public hadn't seen at that point. And they thought it was perfectly fine. And that is such a bad, just such an indication of how people think.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, how can I put this? Like, the situation with the police is nothing new to me.
Right.
You know, like, I've seen it in Philly growing up as a kid, seen it in Texas, seen it in Vegas, all the cities I lived in. You know, there's nothing new. The thing that makes it worse is that it's being videotaped more than ever, and people are still getting off. I remember back in the 90s when the whole Rodney King thing went down, and it was like, damn, well, you know, they're beating this dude's ass, and there's a videotape of it. Nobody had cameras back then.
Right.
Nobody was carrying cameras back then, you know. And now it was a shock because they got acquitted, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, this shit was on tape. How could you let these dudes walk? You know? And then I always remember when Ice Cube came out with that song. You know, he had a song called Who Got the Camera? And it was like, the hook was like, oh please, just give me another hit. And it was like, yo, who got the camera to watch this shit? Because he was talking, I think that whole album was just about, it came out around the time of the LA riots, and it was just like all about this shit that's going on in the hood that people don't know about. And then now we're seeing it, the general public is seeing it, and they're still not doing nothing about it. And I'm like, that's fucked up.
Right.
On every level, it's fucked up.
I don't know what's going to happen, because, I mean, something has to happen, right? Either more riots are going to happen, or, I mean, it's not.
Well, hate crime is up.
Hate crimes are up. It's, you know, and you can't even really point to statistics anymore, because no matter what you Google, you'll find a statistic that will reinforce your already preconceived idea.
Yeah.
Whether you're, you know, super pro cop or you're, you know, super anything else, you'll find statistics for everything.
There's so much shit out there right now.
Right, and it's hard to parse what's real and what's bullshit.
Yep.
I don't know. Something needs to change. I don't know what's going to change. Is it too late to change things? Could be. I mean, there are a lot of police officers who are, I'm sure, great people. I know plenty of them. They do a good job as far as I know. And as far as I know, they don't have, you know, they're not racist or anything.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have noticed, and I have a few friends who've become cops recently, they do change. You can tell from their Facebook posts. You can tell from the way they act. When they become a cop, they join this Team Blue.
Yeah.
And, you know, if it's good for Team Blue, it's good for me. They don't think about it. They don't critically analyze it. They don't use logic. They just know, well, this is my job, and I need to stand by my other boys in blue because we are the only line of defense and this and that. And I get the mentality. I understand it. But at the same time, it's the same mentality that you would see in a cult. There's no critical thinking. Like, is what I'm doing good? I'm supposed to have this job to do one goal, and that's to serve the community. Is what I'm doing serving the community? Is what I'm saying by standing by these other people who may have done something that is not good, is that supporting the community? Is that doing what my job is supposed to be, justice? I think a lot of people feel like it is because they feel persecuted because they are police officers. And for a long time, police get a bad rap.
Yeah.
And they do. But it's not unwarranted. It's not unwarranted, right? We're always great. And it's true. It's a double-edged sword. People are always grateful when things go bad and the police show up. I mean, you can't argue that police do serve a vital role in our community, but there needs to be a line, like a line where they can't cross. And it seems as of late that line has been blurred where they can pretty much do whatever they want. And it's like a police officer can do almost anything and not get in trouble for it. And if they do get in trouble for it, it's not a severe penalty. Like if I were to fuck up at my job, I'd get fired.
Vacation.
Right. But if a police officer does something, as crazy as take someone's life by accident or even on purpose, there are no repercussions that they really need to worry about because they're unionized. They have lawyers. They have a group, a support network that will fight for them. And it's nice to have that support, but at the end of the day, you have to understand, is that support right? Is what you're doing right? Is that setting a bad precedent?
It's like that guy in Brooklyn. Was it Philip Lang?
Mm-hmm. Philip Lang.
Something like that. The cop who shot the kid.
Oh, in the staircase?
Yeah.
And he got like Asian police officer.
He got like 6 months house arrest.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what?
Yep. I mean, that right there is
what kind of bullshit is that?
It's a case of terrible, they're going up a staircase in the projects. And I mean, I have spent a lot of time in staircases at projects. My grandmother grew up in the projects in Brooklyn. I would visit there all the time. Yeah, those staircases are really scary. I would probably take out a gun too if I was going up the staircases. They smell like pee and they're dark. And the walls are cement blocks. It's not really that, comforting to be in the staircase. But at the same time, he had his gun out. He had his finger on the trigger, which if you've ever shot a gun or taken a gun safety class, your finger should never be on the trigger unless you are ready to shoot something. He turned the corner, got scared, fired off a round, and killed that kid.
Yep.
It's such a classic case of just not being properly trained. But, even if it was an accident, which I think it probably was, I don't think he went out there to go shoot somebody that day. I mean, just think about how he ended up there. He's a rookie cop, and they put him in the worst neighborhood. Why would you put a rookie cop? And this is something NYPD do. They put rookie cops in the worst neighborhoods.
Speaking of that, I think one of the biggest problems in New York in general with the police department is like they're putting cops who don't live in a community in other communities
That's right.
to police them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big problem.
Huge mistake. But you also
you don't care about the people you're supposedly trying to protect.
Exactly. But the problem too is, especially with the
Staten Island doesn't have that many fucking people. They'd be
That's
like
true.
every cop is from Staten Island.
Right. But even like the communities, like the poor communities, the projects, like the Marcy projects and stuff like that, the Sumner houses. Think about how many people come from those neighborhoods who want to be cops. Yeah. Probably not many. So, I mean, at some point, right, you're going to have to outsource police officers, which is fine because as a basic human, your ideal goal should be, if you're a cop, to serve and protect, right?
So you telling me that all those cops down in Chinatown are from Chinatown?
Probably not.
All them Asians ain't from Chinatown.
Definitely not. For sure not. Definitely not. But, it's just, it always struck me as weird that, it's like the NYPD hazing ritual, as far as I know, that they put the rookie cops in the bad neighborhoods. You see really rookie cops in like East New York, which if you're not from New York, let me tell you, it's not a super great place to be.
It's trying to get gentrified now.
In another 10 years, it'll be gone. It'll be Starbuckses and, coffee houses and who knows what. But, when you have these rookie cops, they should be with, I don't know. I'm not a cop. Never been a cop. I don't know how their protocol is. I don't know if these rookie cops are with seasoned cops. From what I understand.
In the movies they are.
Right. But from what I understand, all the seasoned cops, all the police officers that have, done their time in these areas, move on to better jobs, detective work, whatever it is they do. But they're not on the street. They're not, they're not flat feet. They're not walking a beat.
They're not in the fuckery.
That's right. Yeah. And you would think they'd want more experienced cops that know the community to stay in that area so that they can have better relations with the people. Because if the police can win the trust of a community, then you'll have a better chance of avoiding any, kind of bad situations that could, not turn out so great.
There's this thing I'm always seeing posted on Facebook. I believe it's an ad, but it's always like connect with the local law enforcement. Have you seen it?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up. No, I couldn't find it. But I keep seeing this ad come up, and it's like, connect with the law enforcement officers in your area. Know who they are, so they can know who you are. You become friends, build a bond, all this shit. And I'm like, I get it. I don't see a problem with it, but I don't think it's gonna really happen in this type of environment we're living in right now.
Right. I mean,
things are too heated.
Right. I live maybe 5 blocks away from a precinct in Brooklyn, and I've lived in this area my entire life. I don't know a single police officer in my neighborhood. Not a single one. And that's fine. I don't need to be friends with them. I don't need, generally I stay out of trouble. I haven't had any. I've had like 2 run-ins with police officers where back when stop and frisk was a thing in New York City, and they wanted to search me, and I was just like, no.
Yeah.
But I've had 1 or 2 good positive encounters with police officers after I had been robbed twice. But I mean, overall, I consider myself pretty neutral in terms of my opinion of police. Like, I think they're important, but I also think you see a lot of, especially in New York City, growing up in New York City, you hear all kinds of stories about the police, about how they, especially from my parents who grew up in the city in the 70s and 80s, when NYPD was for sure not super trustworthy.
Shit, I didn't even grow up here.
Right.
I have no stories of it.
And there's that old saying, the 2 biggest gangs in the United States are the NYPD and the LAPD.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's truth to that. Does that apply to every single person who's a cop? Of course not. No. But the overall, the people who do the worst things get the most attention, and they set the name for the department. So, it's I think it's an issue that as a society, as a country, we need to address the powers and the limits. I mean, we need to set, I think, strict limits to what the police can or cannot do, and especially when it comes to stopping people for no reason or on a suspicion. You really need to be able to prove whether or not the person that you're stopped is really stopped for that reason. Because let me tell you, the NYPD, I've seen them stop people for no reason, especially during stop and frisk.
Yeah.
If they just didn't like the way you looked at them, they could stop you. And there's no recourse you could do. The only recourse you have is to let them do what they want and then get a lawyer and see if you can prosecute. And to be honest, they were targeting poor people. They don't have money for lawyers, especially not good lawyers that can actually. It's a trap. Yeah. And it's a social economic trap.
One of my friends had a good suggestion one time. We were talking about a similar topic, right? Police, and he was saying that it'd be a better idea if every time you're stopped by the police for whatever reason, whether it's a ticket, whether it's just you're a suspect, even if you don't get charged with anything, no matter what, if you're stopped by the police, there's a record of that. Like, somehow there's a record of it. Like, okay, they stopped me going to the train. Boom, right? Nothing big. Hey, you look suspicious. Show me your ID, whatever. It's not you. Go about your business.
Right.
But there's a record of that.
Right. Like, so they stop you. They swipe your ID card. Like, now this is on file. We stop. Yeah, we swipe your card at this time.
You can show a pattern. Like, listen, I'm always harassed. I never get convicted. There's nothing ever on me. But they always say I look like a suspect. Then you have a record of it.
Right.
But like, they have the body cams. But I'm like, there's always types of shit with body cams, and they still shoot people.
It fell off. It stopped recording. My arm was in the way. Or even in cases where the body cam does work.
Doesn't matter.
It's fucking crazy.
But I think, like, at least if we had like some type of system that said, like, you know what? Well, I am being harassed. I am being bothered all the time by the police when I'm just going to work or I'm just coming from work. And I don't know. I think it's a start. That idea, I think, when he said that, I was like, damn, that's a great idea, man.
It is a great idea. That's a lot of paperwork. And we know that the New York City Police Department and New York City government in general, not super great with paper. But, hopefully one day there'll be some kind of way to sort that out, because I do think it's true. On a quick side note, did you hear about the fact that now de Blasio has a special NYPD group that goes around ticketing other police officers who park illegally?
Good luck with that.
Right. Well, it's starting to happen. I'm seeing it on my Facebook with my friends who are cops.
Yeah.
I don't think they should be ticketing police, like actual police cars, but they're ticketing people who use the police card that you have put in the window, who park illegally. And I think that's fantastic, because I can't tell you how many times I see a police officer using their personal vehicle, their private car, parking at a hydrant, and they put the card in the window so that they don't get a ticket, and they park there overnight. Like, they use the hydrant as their own personal parking spot, and that is the abuse I'm talking about. Like, if it's a normal person, like, as far as I'm concerned, if you're a police officer and you're not working, like, you're done for your shift and you're going home, I know that you're still supposed to be technically, like, if something happens, you're supposed to respond. But really, you're just another citizen. And just because you're a cop doesn't make it okay for you to break the law and park in front of a fucking fire hydrant, when the rest of us have to circle around for parking all day or all night looking for a spot when you can just use your car. Like, that's not a benefit of the job. Healthcare is a benefit of the job. Dental is a benefit of the job.
Not parking.
Right. Parking in front of a hydrant or double parking on a street for an hour while you eat a hot dog, like, that's not a benefit. Fuck you. Like, be a normal person.
Yeah.
Park your car like a normal person and stop being a dick. You're not special. You're just a cop. You're a person who happens to be a cop. If you don't like the fact that you're not special, you probably shouldn't be a cop, because if you think you're special, you're definitely the wrong person that needs to be a cop. You just shouldn't be.
Yep.
And that's that whole thing. Like, people who look for power look for that kind of thing. And I know, I'm not going to name him, and you know who I'm talking, you know the person I'm talking about. We'll talk about it off air. There's this fucking specific person who has that personality, who thinks he's so cool and he's a cop and you have to respect him. Let me tell you, when we're on the mat, I abuse him.
When he says the mat, he's talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right. We train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's, as far as for a while, we were very good friends.
Yeah.
But he, I called him out on some bullshit. He didn't like it. And when we roll, I don't brag. I'm okay at jiu-jitsu. I'm okay.
Steve is a brown belt.
Yeah, and so that's one belt
I'm
away
just
from
a purple.
You'll get there. But the brown belt's one belt away from black. But I've been doing it for a long time. Right.
Stunt on him.
That's right. Stunt. Show him. Say it with your chest. Don't sue me, Kevin Hart. So yeah, he thinks he's very special, and jiu-jitsu is a fantastic way to humble somebody, especially somebody who has an ego.
Yeah.
And when I would, I haven't rolled with him in a long time, because the last time I rolled with him, I may or may not have gotten his back and choked him and said, "Stop resisting, stop resisting," and he may have gotten really upset. So yeah, it's sometimes
like a rapist,
right? Like stop resisting. Like there's a reason. Right? Stop resisting. Don't resist. You're only making it worse. You're only making it worse for yourself. Back up.
I don't think I should be laughing at that.
It's okay. No, it's fine. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's all jokes, folks. Don't be mad. Don't, especially if you're a cop.
If you sue me, I don't have anything anymore.
Right, it's fine. And if we're friends and you're a cop, don't be mad. I probably like you. If you're the guy I'm talking about, you for sure know I don't like you, which you can't do anything about anyways because you're a chump. But
does the name rhyme with rice wine?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. No. Rice wine. No.
You don't get it?
I do. Oh. I do. Inside joke, folks. Inside joke. But talking about crazy things and people with an ego, what do you think about your boy Trump?
You know what?
This first podcast is very political.
Well,
right?
Let's take it there. Look, man, I'm going to say it like this. I think it's hilarious. Hilarious. I mean, like, hilarious. I'm cracking up. I'm cracking up not at even what he's doing. I'm cracking up just reading people's responses to what he's doing.
It's all gold. It's so good.
Everybody is like, oh, I'm so hurt. I'm so offended. And oh, my God, what are we going to do? It's the end of the world. And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, motherfucker, this is what I've been living through my whole fucking life.
That's hilarious.
It's like me and everybody who has fucking darker skin. This is what we've been going through. Somebody who hates us and all this shit. And I'm like, all of a sudden, women complaining about stuff when they're not complaining about stuff. Let's be real. Feminism is bullshit, right?
Yeah.
They're complaining about stuff. You got this. Everybody's complaining about shit. And I'm just sitting back like, you know what? Fuck it.
Yep.
Let this dude be president, because this is the funniest time in America where people actually feel like, up until this point,
they feel scared.
Nobody felt oppressed. Or I'm like, yo, what do we like when blacks and Latinos been protesting all this shit for years? Y'all didn't listen to us. Y'all didn't take us seriously. Now the motherfucker's fucking with you.
Yep.
You ain't safe. I'm laughing. I'm laughing. You didn't care about us, but we supposed to care about you. And I'm like, nah, fuck you. You dying with the rest of us. And I'm laughing.
Yeah. It's such a crazy thing. Like when Trump announced he was running for president, I was like, this motherfucker right here. And I really, there was a moment where I was like, nah, he's got no chance. Then I saw the people that were supporting him. I'm like, this motherfucker's going to win. Now, I didn't vote for Trump, but I didn't really discredit him. I didn't say, like, I don't want him.
Yeah.
I didn't vote for him because clearly that's just, overall, his message was not something I thought was good, despite the fact that the rest of the politicians are fucking liars and animals anyways.
It was a shit show.
It was such a shit show. But...
and everybody's going for Hillary.
Yeah, it's such a like a...
she's responsible for fucking the 3 strikes law and all that shit.
So
her and her husband
so
putting
crazy.
people underneath the prison.
Right.
And be like, oh, but that was so long ago.
Right.
That was so long ago.
The hypocrisy.
She changed. Fuck her. Fuck her husband.
Exactly. Fuck them both. This the race of 2016 showed so much hypocrisy in the political system and how bad our political system is. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that our political system is probably better than most.
Yeah, of course.
But clearly we fucked up somewhere because
Definitely.
our political system's totally run by money. It's run by groups that have lots of money, like big companies.
Shit got out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, now our fucking government's run pretty much by Russia.
Man, I'll still rather live here than anywhere else.
Me too.
You know,
Me too. I mean, as bad as people shit on the USA now, still probably the best place to live in the world. Probably.
I'm not a child of immigrants, but you know, I love the whole immigrant philosophy. Not that's a bad way to say that, but I love how when immigrants come here, you know, especially because New York is just filled with immigrants, so it's like easy to talk to somebody from some far off place outside the United States. But when I speak to people and I'm like, yo, they come here and they pursue the American dream, I love that because I believe in the American dream.
Right.
Some people say it's dead, and I'm like, that shit ain't dead.
Nope. You're
just not working hard enough.
Right. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. The other day I was coming back from a photo shoot, and my cab driver was talking to me. We were talking about MMA because he saw I had a jiu-jitsu shirt on. Yeah. And he's from Dagestan.
What is that?
Exactly. I don't know. Somewhere I'm guessing it's somewhere in or around Russia.
All right.
But he was telling me about, you know, he came to the U.S. and he was working really hard. He was driving an Uber. And, you know, he said he was working to save money so that he can open his own business. We didn't get into what the business was, but he was telling me that, you know, it's way better here than it was back home. And that's the reason why he left. Like, he's like, I could have gone to Europe. I could have gone, you know, anywhere in Europe, but I chose to come to America because it's opportunity. And I think a lot of the people who say that that American dream is dead and stuff like that, I think those are the people that have lived here their whole life, have had a very comfortable life, and currently aren't having things handed to them.
Yep.
I guess I kind of fall into that category because I've been here my whole life.
Yeah, but you work.
Right, I work.
You bust your ass.
Right, I come from a very traditional middle class family.
But that's why we're friends.
Right, both parents worked.
Yeah.
Both parents still work. Mm-hmm. We lived in a small-ish apartment in Brooklyn when it was still affordable. You know, they taught me the value of hard work, and they, you know, if you want stuff, you got to work for it. You got to earn it. Nothing's gonna be given to you. Yeah. And you know, if you want something, you got to go get it. And I think that's one reason why I'm a photographer, and I like to work. I enjoy working hard. Like you may hear me complain about my day job because the people I work with are savages. But when I photograph, when I go on shoots, when I book work, I work hard. I work, you know, long days, and I don't complain because I enjoy every minute of it, and I know that working hard, like there's a satisfaction you got working hard. You know, when you put in 8-9 hours on something you like, I'm sure you can relate when you work on a piece of art for 8 or 9 hours, and you know you're exhausted and you're tired and your eyes hurt, but you have a finished piece of work, or maybe it's not even finished, maybe it's half finished, and you know that you put in the work, and it's something that's yours.
I feel like I don't know, my generation, I don't consider myself a millennial, you know, and even I looked this up with my girlfriend one time, and it was like there's the baby boomers.
Yep, baby boomers, Gen X, and then millennials.
X, Gen Y. Then millennials, right?
I'm a millennial. According to the years, I'm at that later end of the millennials. Yeah.
But technically, I'm supposed to be millennial because of when I was born.
Right.
I was born in 1978. So, but I always related to like the Gen X generation, right? Because those were my teenage years, right? So when I was growing up, and I don't want to sound like old as shit, like I've been through everything, but you know, when I was growing up, we didn't have everybody being pampered with trophies, and everybody was on the same level. It was like, yo, you lost or you won, you were good, you were bad, you need to work. And now we have this whole society where everybody gets a trophy, everybody is on the same level playing field, and all that bullshit that they teach you in school because they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And that's a part of what we're dealing with right now. These are the after effects of that, right? You got kids who grew up thinking they can get whatever they want without hard work, and then now they can't get a job because they went to school. Yeah, that's cool, but you can't get a job because why can't you get a job? Because you didn't bust your ass hard enough to get the job.
Right.
And I see that all the time, and I'm like, this is some bullshit that we're dealing with. So when I see Trump in office, I'm not surprised he's in office.
No, neither am I.
You know, it's like, okay, well, the country's been fucked.
Mm-hmm.
People say, oh, the country's this. Man, there's places in the United States, a lot of fucking places in the United States that doesn't even have clean water.
Not Detroit, Flint.
Fucking Newark, man.
Yeah. Newark's that bad?
It was on the news.
Damn.
Newark and parts of New York.
Shit.
Yeah, but see, the whole water thing, it doesn't come from just the water itself. It's a whole system. It's like the pipes and everything. So there's a lot of shit that's fucked up. But even the fact that people don't have just clean drinking water. let's not even talk about the drugs and the crime and all that stuff. But the basic necessities of life people in the United States aren't reaching.
Right. And we're the predominant country in the world. We're like number one.
This shit's been fucked up.
Yeah.
It's been horrific.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just saw a post today that said the New York the MTA is in a
state of emergency. Right. Because it is. The shit's like it's just 100 and something years old, still using switches from 100 years old.
Which I'm glad I got a bike.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I rely on the MTA pretty heavily, and unless you've been stuck on a train or stuck on a platform with 1,000 people when it's hot in the middle of summer and there's no trains, you don't understand the stress that comes with the MTA. They need to fix that. We're working on a train system that is over 100 years old. The technology has not changed, and the only reason why they don't change it is because the downtime would be so significant it would like cripple New York City if they just turned the MTA off for like a week to do repairs or whatever. How long? It'd probably take longer than that.
Fuck everything up.
Yeah, it would destroy
the whole infrastructure.
Yeah, the entire city runs on this system. I'm sure somebody out there can figure out some kind of system. Shut down this line, repair it, move on to the next line, repair it. I don't know.
But my whole thing is like, with Trump, I'm like, you know what? Well, shit's been messed up and it's only been getting worse over and over again. So, sure, why not have this guy as president? I mean, I didn't vote for him. I don't want him as president.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, shit's been fucked up. So what's the worst he can do?
Right. I mean,
you know what I mean?
Right. No, I
That's
mean,
how I feel.
we have the
like,
same. We've
man.
had the same type of president forever. White
Pretty
dude, minus Obama. But even Obama being who he is, which I thought he was a perfectly fine president. I thought he did. He could have done better.
There's some shady shit too.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's a president. He's a politician. Politicians and shadiness go hand in hand. But
Monsanto and
they all talk with the same cadence. We're going to fix the problems. We're going to make America great, and we're going to get our allies together and feed the children. And like you can trace back that type of talking, that cadence, that the hand motions, the rhetoric throughout almost all of the presidents we've had.
It's a program. Right.
And Trump is the first one that's like, yeah, grab her by the pussy. I like it. Yeah, he's kind of an asshole. He's a savage. I don't like what he's doing. Most people I don't think do. I think he's probably going to do some pretty terrible things before he either gets impeached or finishes his term. Yep. But I think the effect of him completely destabilizing our idea of what the president is and scaring the shit out of other politicians is good because that lets them know.
It's a wake-up call.
Right. That lets them know that there is a majority out there that is tired of your shit. Yep. And, I forget where I saw it, but recently they said they've done some studies and some polls, or if you want to believe polls, that the majority, if like 35 or 40% that give Trump his approval rating are, they say quote unquote uneducated white males, and that's just to say they didn't go to college. I hate that term, by the way, because I never finished college, so that would classify me as uneducated, and I don't think I'm uneducated. Yep. But of course, and the people who are doing these terms are the people that Trump, shits on, because these are, liberal elite Ivy League kids or people that, in most terms, I feel they think they are above people who never went to college.
Of course,
and I'm even willing to bet that somebody who didn't go to college and somebody who became a plumber or whatever probably has a harder work ethic than somebody who went to Yale to study fucking fine art or whatever. I don't know. That's just my idea.
Don't shit on fine art.
I'm just saying, you can't. People who complain, especially kids who complain about not making enough money when their degrees in interpretive dance, like shut the fuck up. No one cares about your dancing. Do something useful. No one cares about your origami therapy. It's like no one cares. But I think the instability that Trump has created, whether or not overall it's good, or in this moment is good, I think overall it's going to create a kind of awakening of people to realize we have to elect somebody who's not a typical politician, but who's also not a complete asshole. If you can find somebody with a balance who talks well, who's educated at least a little bit, and understands how the world works, I think they have a much and that doesn't look and sound like a politician. Like I think that's
Trump. He doesn't look as
he doesn't, but he's also just not smart. He's not an intelligent human. I don't know if it's because he's old or what, but like I don't think he's a smart mammal. Like I don't think he's a smart thing. Like he's like the motherfucker who goes in
nor his wings with ranch.
Right. Fuck, blue cheese will fuck your mother, in the words of Joey Diaz. It's just one of those things. Like, you can tell when you talk to somebody if they're intelligent or, for the most part, you have a conversation with somebody, you can gauge where their head's at, right?
Yeah.
Like with Trump, he's entertaining, but, if I had to put money on his IQ, I wouldn't put very much, if any, money on like him being able to solve a crossword puzzle. Like, I wouldn't turn to him like, hey, what do you think 3 across is? It's 4 words and it rhymes with duck. Like, he wouldn't get it. Yeah, I mean I think overall he's probably bad, but he's shaking things up, which I think needed to be done.
I definitely agree when you say there's an awakening, and I'm not talking about people who are woke.
Woke AF, son. Woke AF.
You know what's going on, all that bullshit. No, but I mean, like, people actually care more now about politics because they realize
it's important
as a whole how much of us it affects.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just 1%. It's just like, no, it's all of us, dude.
It's all of us.
And I think more people are seeing that now, which is a good thing. Like, even though I say I'm kind of laughing at the fact that he's president, I'm also entertained, or I'm also inspired the fact that more people are involved in politics now.
So am I.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never big into politics. I always kept one ear open and kind of read here and there about what was going on and what Congress was doing or whatever. But I was never really emotionally invested. And I think a lot of us got pulled into this 2016 race simply because of who the candidates were and the thing. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Trump caught my attention because he was saying some crazy shit. And anybody who knows me for a long time or any amount of time knows I'm kind of crazy. I have some pretty radical ideas about government and about, what freedom actually means, or rather what it should mean. So when he was talking, and my complete distaste for politicians in general. So when I first saw him, I was like, all right, I mean, he'll be a little crazy and he'll rile things up, but he'll probably lose to Hillary because it's Hillary, right? It's the Clinton dynasty.
Obviously, she didn't have that much money.
Not as much as Trump. He didn't have that. She didn't have that Putin money, that Kremlin money, that that Russian oligarch, czar money. But we all, I think, expected for the most part Trump would be okay, and then he would lose at the end to Hillary. Clearly, that's not what happened.
Nope.
Pretty much, she got handled by Trump, and then the FBI did not help when they reopened that investigation right before the election. It's definitely a bad call, but to be honest, I think about it a lot. If she was in office right now, would anybody be more happy? Like,
nope,
I don't.
wouldn't.
Right? The people who've been oppressed will always be oppressed.
Pantsuit Nation.
So the people that are oppressed are always going to be oppressed, and the world's going to keep spinning. There's very little changes in my opinion from president to president. Trump represents a big change, but that's only because he's so radically different from any kind of president we've ever had. And that's, for some that's good, for some that's bad. I think the people who think he's going to change their world, they're probably going to be really mistaken. And the people who are overreacting, thinking that Trump's going to rip their uterus out, I think they're going to be kind of relieved when they realize that's not the case. But, that's how the world goes.
Yeah. It's like some people thought, like, blacks would be sold back into slavery.
Right? It's crazy. Like, you don't take...
I mean, I don't know about them, but me, that's just not going to happen.
Right. No. I mean, I get where that fear comes from, but I think it's so illogical to fear that kind of change. Like, that would be such a step backwards that it would be unprecedented. Like, if you are black and you think that you're going to be sold back into slavery because of Trump, that's ridiculous. Like, come on. It's dumb. You'd be more likely to just
be more useful in the prisons. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. Jokes, folks. No, I was just it's such a crazy idea. And while I like a crazy idea from time to time, like aliens, which I think is what we're talking about originally, I don't think they're gonna start selling slaves again. And if they are, they're probably just gonna be white slaves.
So you mentioned aliens. So what do you think about that anonymous video they posted up
earlier
this week?
I want to believe, #X-Files. I want to believe that it's real and that Anonymous has some kind of, inside knowledge from their hackery or whatever. But man, I don't know. It's just at this point, I need to see see an alien. I need to have sit down at a bar and have a beer with an alien and be like, yo, tell me what's up.
But that won't happen. Anytime soon.
I don't know.
You know.
Or I need to see just some ships come out of the sky and try to fuck us up. Like one of those things, like Independence Day needs to happen, or I just want none of it to happen. I'm tired. If aliens showed up and were like, "Hey, we're here to teach you how to have clean, renewable energy," first off, they'd probably get murked by one of the governments who doesn't want to have clean, renewable energy.
Yeah.
Right? Like Trump would send a missile and murder them all. But then that would also be boring. I would kind of like want aliens. Like what was it? The movie with Tom Cruise. Is it the End of the World movie?
Beetlejuice.
No, Tom Cruise. Shit. The movie with Tom Cruise and the aliens, and he's
War of the Worlds.
World of Worlds.
The remake.
Right.
The shitty one.
Like if those things came out of the ground and started blowing people to smithereens, like to dust, I'd rather have that than have like a kumbaya type of alien landing.
My thing would be I would rather have like Independence Day mixed with like Battle Los Angeles.
That was a good movie. That movie's underrated.
Yes.
I saw that movie in the theaters, and that movie was really good.
Too.
They shit all over that movie.
I was like, I would rather see like Independence Day mixed with Battle Los Angeles and Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim. But are they aliens? But they come from another dimension.
But if you follow any of the extraterrestrial ET conspiracy theory lore, some of the people say that they're not extraterrestrials at all, that they come from an alternate dimension. Some even say that they're from the bottom of the ocean.
Really?
Yeah, like USOs. Oh man,
I've never heard of that.
That's a whole nother topic.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, damn.
It's like I don't know. I don't like my whole thing with aliens and ET and the what if and X-Files and all that. I love a good what if.
Right. So do I. I think everybody
Like
does.
I don't care. Like I just love a good what if. I love a good. Well, shit. God damn it, that was a hell of a story.
Yep.
Could that happen?
Maybe.
I don't know. Could I prove it?
Nope.
Probably not. But that was a good ass story, and it made me think about some stuff.
Yep.
Like when I watch alien movies and like doomsday apocalypse movie, like movies type of stuff, I always think about like, okay, well, that would never happen, or that would happen. And I'm like, shit, yeah, I could see that really happening. You know, it's like I remember I watched this movie called The Divide, which had nothing to do with aliens or anything, but it was a good movie, and it was about like it was a nuclear attack. But at the time, they didn't know it was a nuclear attack. You know, it was like some shit went down in New York, and these people they were in the building, shit's getting blown up all over the place, and they just run to the basement of the building, right? And the whole movie was like so on point with just survival, because it showed how people react in cabin fever type of environments. It shows how people react or what the things you go through, like the women and keeping them safe and all that shit.
The primal stuff.
Yeah, like food rationing. And then one guy was like a survivalist, conspiracy theory nut. He was the guy who was really on point. And it was like all these things. And I'm just watching the movie. I'm like, besides like the basic plot, the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, damn, what would I do in this situation?
Right.
You know, and that's what I love about a good like alien what if conspiracy. I'm like, I don't know if they come from like Planet 9 from outer space or Nibiru or some shit. I have no idea. But the fact that there's like stories out there and there's people who tell these convincing stories, I'm like, okay.
Makes you wonder.
Makes me wonder.
Yep.
I can't prove it.
Right.
But I'm like, I'll listen to some Hollow Earth stuff.
Right. I'm there with
know?
you.
I'm like,
every time I see these end of the world alien movies, or even if it's not aliens, just end of the world movies, I always think like, would I survive? Would I make it? Am I ready? Is that something I can deal with? In my head, I think I can, but if it was reality, would I be able to
kill somebody?
Right. I mean, yeah, I think I could do that, but that's the easy part. But like leaving my family behind, or letting them go.
Like I could run, you can't, you out.
Right. Like it's rough. Like I think in my head I could probably do it, but if it was like face to face, like man, that'd be rough. That'd be rough. And like some of these darker movies,
like P Sparks,
right? Like by Cat. Sparks is John's cat that's just lounging around over here. Good cat. I don't know. It's just like one of those things. And it's terrifying. For me, it's terrifying.
So the Anonymous Group, they posted a video earlier this week where they were talking about how NASA is going to release some news about they discovered extraterrestrial life and they've been in contact and all this stuff. You can watch the video for yourself. Like, I took it with a grain of salt. It's a cool video, It has some clips of like alleged UFOs that are like authentic. Hell, I don't know.
Right.
I remember there was that video of that UFO that was, you couldn't see it on the naked eye, but in infrared on radar, they could spot the UFO.
Right.
You know, and I think I sent you the clip, and the UFO was like flying through the air, and it was like this smoke that was coming out of it. And I was like, that's a trippy ass video, you know, because it was backed up by the military. None of the guys were crazy. None of the guys were like secret government agency type of shit. Nothing like that.
Just regular dudes.
Just regular military guys were like, listen, we saw this. We have absolutely no explanations for it. Here's the video. You take with it what you want. We need some answers. And I'm like, that's bugged out.
I think there's a lot of fuckery going on in general. I think a lot of these UFO things can be explained, and I relatively accept most of the explanations.
I think most of them are just military experiments.
Right. From other governments that they don't tell people about. But I think there are things that we don't understand that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
And not to get too woo-woo, I'm not particularly religious. I was raised very religious, but I do think that there is something going on with the universe, with like the way humanity in general is moving. And we're going to start seeing a lot more of these weird things start to happen. Some people, I'm sure like you think, aliens are about to show up or something. I think whether it's aliens or some kind of revelation, the awakening that a lot of people talk about, I think some shit's about to go down. And people are going to wake up and they're going to be like, this is not what it seems.
That's what I was saying a few minutes ago. I was like, yo, there's a bunch of shit going down right now. You know, Trump's in office. He's doing all this stuff. He's making all these changes, but it's forcing people to pay attention, to wake up, you know, not to be woke. I hate that, but, you know, to wake up and pay attention to things.
Woke AF.
And there's some shit going on that we don't know about that's going to affect us all. And I think that's one of the main reasons why things are going on, you know. And unfortunately, the people that talk about these types of subjects are the ones in a conspiracy type of setting, you know, which is like whenever somebody says, oh, you're into conspiracy theories, it's like, no, I'm not into fucking tinfoil hats and who shot JFK type shit.
Think about it. Conspiracy is a group of people who are working together to form a fiction around something. Yeah. That's essentially what a conspiracy is. It's not hard. Like a conspiracy has a bad connotation to it. It has a bad reputation. But essentially, a conspiracy is like you, me, and maybe a third guy do something, and we create a false narrative to hide it. And it's not hard to fabricate a conspiracy.
But you got to see, like,
proving a conspiracy.
It's like when people talk about things, and it's like, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. Like, no, I'm actually doing research on shit. Right. And these are the facts. Like I always tell people, I'm like, yo, look it up. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you ain't got to take my, like the dude from Reading Rainbow. Don't take my word for it. Read it yourself. Right. You know, you don't have to believe me, but don't dismiss me because you don't believe what I say. Right. You know, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, like I'm not a big fan of him, but I remember he said it. He was like, the universe doesn't have to explain yourself. I think it was something like that. Like the universe doesn't have to explain itself to you. It's like, because we don't even understand the universe. Right. People think they know everything. I'm like, nah, man, there's some shit out there. Yeah. There's some stuff on this planet. I was watching the video the other day.
We know space better than we know the ocean.
Oh, I was just about to get into that. It was like, there's so many things on this planet. They dug a hole, I believe it's in Russia. They dug a hole that was about either 10 meters or 10 miles. I'm sorry, I don't know the fucking metric system. I go with miles and inches.
Because we're from America.
From America. So I can't remember if it's 10 miles or 10 meters into the earth. Right. This is the deepest hole they ever dug anywhere on the planet, right? And the guys are saying, like, yeah, as they was drilling deeper and deeper and deeper, they would hear sounds of screaming.
That is fucking terrifying.
Yeah, so they stopped. And I was like,
what year was this?
This was recently. I can show you the video. It was I follow this guy on YouTube called what's it called? Hold up.
But they went down. They dug a hole, and the deeper they got, they heard screaming. Yep. Holy shit!
Yeah, where's it at?
That's absolutely terrifying. If that's the case, I mean, that would very clearly prove that hell exists for like a Catholic.
Well, see, that's the thing. My thing, you could take it two ways, right? You could take it as it was actually a hell that they entered, or it was just sounds of something else. Right. It could have been like natural gas.
Right. Things moving around.
Some type of chemical that made the sound, and people just thought it was people screaming.
Right, right.
Or it could have been like hollow earth. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. I'm not trying to sit here and explain it. But this is a story that was told. So there's a guy I follow on YouTube, and he always talks about things, all types of subjects. But one of the subjects the reason I like the guy is because he comes at it from a point of view of facts based on legend.
Mm-hmm.
So his channel is called Beyond Science. All right. Now his channel.
Is this the Asian guy?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like whatever he talks about, he's always like, listen, these are the legends. Boom, 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 boom. This is written here. This is written here. This is talked about here. This, that, and the other. Right? He presents all that shit that was written down in history, cataloged. You can look it up yourself. Then he hits it from like, this is what they did. These are the factual things. This is this. This is what actually happened. So when he was talking about Earth one time, he was like, you know, he has all these videos on different things about the planet.
Yep.
And one of the ones where when they dug the hole, it was like, yo, they dug in there. These people go down, and as they're going down, they kept hearing like different things. And once they got to a certain level, they heard people screaming so much, they just stopped. And that's the deepest hole.
That's terrifying.
Anywhere in the world, you know, it just makes me think, you know, just like with UFOs or anything else, it just poses a question. You know, it's like, how much do we really know about this planet, and how much it's just speculation? You know,
Yeah, we don't know a whole lot. I mean, look at people like Graham Hancock, who say that there's a whole unwritten part of our history as humanity that we've forgotten. I mean,
I very much believe in that.
Right, so do I. I mean, it makes sense. We have, as a species, humans have been around for thousands of years. I mean, you know, if you look at Neanderthals or the way we've evolved in between those stages to what we are now, very possible that we had that, you know, that there is civilizations or remnants of civilizations left over from thousands and thousands of years ago, because we know that humans build on top of old civilizations. I mean, even in Europe, there was recently an article about a kid who found an ancient city in Europe that was underneath his current city because we built on top.
Okay.
So, you know, in this entire world that we live on, we don't know what's under our feet. Like you were just saying, that guy who dug that hole, those people who dug that hole, they got down deep and they heard screaming. Who knows what else is down there? Like, we've never been to the center of the earth. We don't know what it's like in there.
Haven't been to the bottom of the ocean.
Nope. We don't know what the fuck down there either.
You know,
and remember, they thought that giant squids were a thing of the past. And then one fucking showed up on a beach.
Yep.
And they were like, what the fuck is that?
Like
it's a giant squid.
Not just on the beach, on the video.
Right.
And,
well, the first one rolled up on the beach, dead. And they were like, whoa. And then they found a live one when they had sent the camera down.
Yeah.
And then it swam by the camera, and they were like, Jesus Christ, they're real. What else is fucking real?
It's like, it makes me think of like Titans, you know, the Greek Titans.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, man, I could talk about this forever,
Yep.
but I don't think, like, I know some people are going to listen to this and they'll be like, oh, well, it's it's that.
We
it's
jumped around
other.
a lot.
It's like, you know what? Nobody has all the fucking answers, man.
And it's fun. It's fun. Like, even at the very least, it's fun. It's a fun thing to think about,
It's
right?
a good what if.
Right?
It's like, I don't know, like Indiana Jones. Not the last movie. Scratch that for the record.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the last movie.
But Indiana...
But Indiana Jones isn't the same without Nazis, and we all know it.
See,
Nazis make a good conspiracy, and Nazis make a good movie.
they were into a lot of stuff.
That's right.
They were into a lot of shit.
That's right. And if you'd like to learn more about that, go listen to the Conspiracy Guys. They have a great episode on Nazis.
You think they'll give us a like back? Probably not. Right?
Probably not, but shout out to them because they're awesome.
The Irish motherfuckers.
Irish as fuck.
They do some pretty good fucking impersonations.
They do. The Al Pacino is great. The Al Pacino impression had me dying. So it looks like we have just passed the 1 hour mark. Should we wrap it up? What do you think? Nope. We want to keep going?
Keep going.
All right. This bitch is going to keep rolling along.
We're gonna keep
Get
going.
yourself a cold beer like us. We've enjoyed multiple adult beverages this evening. I'm yet to get intoxicated, so that's good because I still got a lot to talk about.
I'm high on Benadryl.
I'm Benadryl.
I got allergies.
Do not fall asleep on me.
I might pass out, but I'll be all right.
All right. I'll just take some of your stuff.
But you know what? Before we go to another subject, let's just stick with this for a second.
All right.
Conspiracies or aliens.
Mm-hmm.
So Anonymous puts out the video, and you know, a part of me was like, okay, cool. I see more and more of these videos coming out online. More and more people, like what's his name, Stephen Greer. He has the documentaries coming out. He proved that little 6-inch figure that he has is not an anomaly.
Right.
That's a full-grown human being. Looks like a fucking alien, fresh out of X-Files, full-grown. And I'm like, there's more and more things coming out. The skulls, the elongated skulls that were found in South America. people said, "Oh, it was a fluke. It was a mutation." Yeah, of 300 fucking skulls.
Right.
That's a mutation. 300 of them.
It could also be like that tradition they do where they bind the skull.
Nope.
No, why not?
Because you got to watch the video.
Hit me with the facts, Smalls.
But I'm gonna paraphrase. But from the video, they even said it like, well, two things. They did the DNA. They were like, okay, well, this is another. It's human. It's not alien.
Just different type of human.
It's a different species of human. That's the first fact. The second fact is because the way the skull is, there's a line on your skull that we all have, right? It's like I don't want to call it a line because it's not a straight line. It's more like a crack, and all the humans have it.
Right.
Like Homo sapiens, we all have it, but all 300 of those skulls don't have that crack. And it has to do something with your birth. Like, you know how you have a soft spot, babies always have a soft spot on the skull. So it has to do something with that. But they were saying like all 300 of the pieces or samples that they have, they do not have that crack.
That's interesting.
So again, going back to carbon dating, the DNA results is a different subspecies of
Human.
Well, that's somewhere along the evolution line.
Right. Well, that's not hard to believe. I mean, they're finding. I mean, for the longest time, they didn't realize that there were other species of human.
Yes.
Then they found Neanderthals, and then they found the species before Neanderthals.
Yeah.
That they realized that Neanderthals killed off, and then that's when we evolved from.
You have at the same time when you had the caveman, you had Africans already evolved.
Right.
In Africa.
They've proven that there've been multiple types of Americans, but different types of humans lived together at the same time and interacted with each other.
So the whole human history and the timeline is constantly being changed.
Right. And I don't think it'll ever be figured out because I think there's so much that we don't know about humanity and their constant change that there's too many pieces that are to put together and too much of it has already vanished.
But see, that goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like anybody who thinks they know every fucking thing, you're wrong.
Yep.
Because there's no way you can know everything.
There's no way.
Like, take the Big Bang. And we spoke about this before. It was like people say, oh, the Big Bang, you have this element, chick, boom, planets. I was like, no, motherfucker. How the hell can you have nothing, and make something? It has to be something before there.
Right. There's going to be somebody who's going to say something about that, which I'm open to hear. But, I mean, I believe the Big Bang happened. I want to know how and why.
Well, to say the Big Bang happened means that there was nothing.
And then there was something.
And then there was something. Two things.
I want to know what triggered that something.
It has to be something.
Right?
So the Big Bang is bullshit.
Well, no, because there could be something that started the Big Bang that triggered it. We just don't know what it is.
Okay. So you're saying, so basically you're saying that the Big Bang is flawed.
I think it's incomplete.
Yeah. Okay. I can agree with that.
Like it's like looking at, you ever play a game with like a video game with like a map and you explore different areas. Like I think we have part of the map and we're just missing the very beginning.
But I think it's wrong for them to teach people to say like, okay, well, there was in the beginning, there was nothing. And then there was this and this.
Well,
and they combined.
It depends. I guess it depends on your outlook on life because I would rather learn that there was nothing and then there was some kind of reaction that created an explosion that created the universe. I would rather learn that than knowing or being told that there was nothing and then there is a person in a celestial sky that you will never see snapped his fingers and here you are and now he judges you and he watches you masturbate instead of curing hungry children in Africa, in Somalia, because there's a drought. Like, I'd rather believe that everything happened because of a chain reaction of chemistry than some celestial being who chooses to give little kids cancer instead of fixing that problem.
I agree.
You know, and again, it goes back to I don't know. Maybe there is a God.
I believe there is a God.
I believe that the universe is.
I don't think we know what he is.
Or what it is, really.
It's like the allegory of the caves. You ever read that?
No.
Who is it? I think it was Plato. I'm not sure, but it's pretty good.
Allegory of the caves.
Caves, yes.
I'll have to look that up.
No, it's a good one. It's by Plato. All right.
Okay.
So the allegory of the caves is like it's like saying that we're in a cave, right? So we're in a cave looking at a wall, and inside the cave we're going to get like little bits of sunlight every now and then. And that sunlight, it's somebody outside the cave doing shadow puppets on the wall. And we're just looking at the shit like trying to figure out what those shadows are, thinking that we just see like glimpses on the wall.
This is some deep philosophy shit, right?
It's cool because it's like shit. It's like we don't know anything. We're backwards about everything, and we're just trying to piece together. We're trying to figure out, and we're trying to have it make sense to our understanding.
Right.
Which goes back to what I said about NDT, Neil deGrasse Tyson earlier, where he like I said, I'm not a big follower of the guy, but this was one of those great quotes. I know I'm messing up the quote, but he was saying that the universe doesn't have to explain itself to us. It's like there's things out there that we don't understand. And I think with science, like science is great, mathematics is great, but it's all about what we understand.
Right.
You know, so what if there are things that to the fifth dimension? Because I think we just broke the fourth dimension, or the understanding of what a fourth dimension could be. I hear a lot of talk about the fourth dimension. But what if we go to the fifth, sixth, seventh? What if there are more dimensions that we just can't perceive with our eyes?
Right.
For whatever for whatever reason. And these creatures that we see as aliens, yeah, maybe a lot of them are hoaxes. Maybe a lot of them are, government test projects, for any government, it could be like test projects or some shit, spy planes and stuff. And then what if it is that small amount that is actually an intergalactic entity, or something from the Earth, or something from an alternate reality? Or maybe not, no, maybe that's far-fetched alternate reality, but an alternate dimension.
No, I mean, I think that's perfectly, something reasonable to consider. The physicist Michikaku talks about the alternate dimensions, how there in every dimension there's a similar version but different of each person living their life. As far as I know, that's still a theory.
But see, he also calls us like I think we're a type 0 civilization.
Yeah.
There's like 5. He's like, I think the 4th or 5th one is the type of civilization that lives off of the environment. So say like the sun, we haven't gotten to that level yet.
Right.
There's a type 3 civilization, which is like no violence, no war, shit like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually had this conversation with my girlfriend's father somewhat recently, but he was telling me, like, he shares a lot of the same ideas that you and I share about, ancient knowledge and just ideas and theories that really aren't mainstream and aren't accepted by most people. And he was telling me that the humanity in itself evolves every, I think it's 27,000 years. Humanity reaches a different level of evolution. And he likes to point to pop culture, specifically older pop culture that references this idea. And he showed me an old episode of Star Trek with William Shatner. I forget the episode and the season, but I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find it. The Star Trek Enterprise finds this planet, and they beam down, and it's like this village in almost like medieval times. It's what it seems like. It's like a medieval culture. They look like humans. They talk like humans. Very tribal.
Yeah.
And they go down, and they're kind of held as prisoners.
Star Trek.
Okay.
What do they call them? Starfleet Command.
Yeah. Starfleet. So eventually, Kirk notices that there's like a weird thing going on. Like these people are strange. They're too nice. There's almost like no violence. Eventually, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it since like 1968. But eventually, he finds out that the people are an evolved type of entity. They are much older than what current humans are. Yeah. And they like vanish. And Kirk's talking to them, and he's like, "Where are you?" He goes, "We don't need human bodies. We are pure energy. We've evolved past this a long time ago." Yeah. And I only tell that story to say there are a lot of people who share the idea that humanity in its current form is almost like a second incarnation of humanity. And the first generation that was here has already ascended to a level of pure energy. Like that could be what we interpret as ghosts, as gods, as aliens, like a living entity that was here on this planet much farther.
Ascension, right?
Right. Like they were here on this planet millions of years ago, maybe billions of years ago, living amongst themselves, and they evolved to the point where they no longer need a physical body to live. They're part of the universe. They've ascended to a different plane of existence. And that could be, eventually what we lead to, but it won't be for many a year.
That reminds me of like Stargate Atlantis.
That's a good show.
Yeah, that was kind of like the story with them. It was like the people from Atlantis, they ascended to a higher realm and they found their base. They were like, what happened to them? And they were like, they evolved.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we don't.
That's why I love science fiction.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
like I say, I love a good what if.
Good what if. It's just one of those things that I think about sometimes. Like, where was humanity a million years ago? Right? Because we know roughly 2,000 years ago, Jesus was walking around allegedly.
Yeah.
Turning water into wine, walking on water, not banging Mary Magdalene. And they were pretty primitive, right?
Yeah.
They wrote on parchment, they wrote on like papyrus. They, very, very few things remain currently from that time. Just like castles and like stone formations remain.
Which is why
the pyramids remain, and they're older than Jesus.
But see, pyramids are older as shit.
Yeah. Like, where are those people?
But see, that's why I I love fine arts, and I particularly love like analog arts. Anything not on a computer,
right?
Non-digital. It's like I love computer art, but at the same time, there is something that I enjoy about doing handmade things.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think we should ever lose that.
No,
because you have to. Yeah, computers are great, and you could do a lot with the computer, but you could learn a lot more by making errors on paper when you only have like that one sheet and you can't fuck up.
Right, and it feels like it almost feels like you lose part of the craft when you take away the actual tools, paper and ink and pen, or in my case, if you're a photographer, the film and the darkroom paper. Like, it's a different thing. I mean, it's just a gradual evolution of what media and stuff is. But like in 100 years, there's probably going to be no way to read whatever's on your computer right now.
Nope.
But if you paint something on a piece of paper, or like this canvas that you have hanging over your couch, if that's around in 100 years, if this whole place hasn't gone up in smoke, that'll still be there, and people will still be able to look at that and with their eyes know what that is.
Yep.
Because that's art, it's real, it's physical, it's tangible, it'll last. But like, I put a bullet through your computer, and that's it. It's gone. Anything that you create on there that may have been a masterpiece will never see the light of day again.
Yep. It's like, speaking of that, there's an exhibit in the city on Michelangelo.
The master, Michelangelo.
Did you know that this guy was never a painter?
Michelangelo?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, man.
He's pretty good for a not painter.
He was a sculpture artist, but he wasn't. His thing wasn't painting. He was more about the figure.
Right.
So they hired him to do this job.
Is that why he painted everybody with their dicks out?
I mean, he was probably like a little foo-foo.
Have you seen that meme that they did of Michelangelo?
No.
Where the church comes in and goes, "We want you to paint the Sistine Chapel. Can you do that?" And he's like, "Sure." And then he said, "Yeah, but I'm gonna paint them with all their dicks out." It's such a good meme.
I'm not talking about that.
I'm just saying, Michelangelo knew what he was doing.
But no, since we're we switched to the topic of art. I just want to, or we mentioned art. I just want to mention this real quick. That's going on in New York. And I think, God damn it,
at the Oculus.
But I gotta stop. Like, I gotta have like these links bookmarked. I can't keep pulling this stuff up like this.
Gotta have the show notes ready, my friend.
Yeah, show notes. Okay, so I saw this posting by Condé Nast, and it's pretty cool. It's like you could check out 34 of Michelangelo's greatest pieces in New York City. They basically recreated them and blew them up. Not recreated the painting, but digital printing and shit. So I think that's great. Because it falls in line to like how we were saying, like analog techniques and style that last forever versus something digital. Because I don't think in 100 years you would see somebody who did like a ton of digital art, and they can be magnificent. Right. I don't think you're gonna see somebody doing digital art and have an exhibit like, yo, this artist was great in 2017. Right. He did all this shit.
It's different. I mean, the level of sacrifice is different, right? Yeah. Like. No disrespect to people who do work on the computer all day. Like,
I'm one of them.
Right. Like, you sit at your desk, you work, you make something, whether it's for you or your profession, you put time, and it's art. I'm not going to say it's not art. It's art. You created something from nothing. But is it at the same scale that Michelangelo did it, where he laid on his back, painted this, and lost his eyesight from painting this? Like, he went blind. I don't think a lot of people knew. I didn't know this until recently. He lost his eyesight after he did the Sistine Chapel. Yeah. All the paint dripping into his eyes. I don't any for what it is. I've never seen the Sistine Chapel in person. I've only seen recreations and like books and stuff.
Some pictures on the wall.
Right, I've seen like pretty high quality recreations of his work.
Yeah.
I would love to go to Italy and see it. I plan to, but when was the last time you heard of an artist do that recently? In the last 50 years, 100 years?
Nah, man, they don't do that.
Who sacrificed they make their living with their eyes, sacrifice their vision so they can paint a ceiling of a chapel so that the world could enjoy it. And how long ago was this painted? Right.
16th century, some shit.
And it stayed around.
I could be wrong.
Right, but a long time. It's been around for a fucking long time.
Long time.
Long fucking long time. And it goes for all types of artwork. The Mona Lisa. I mean, all kinds of art that's from that era, from the Renaissance, from these masters, these old masters. A lot of these guys were poor most of their lives. A lot of these guys.
Not Michelangelo.
He was rich.
He died pretty wealthy.
Yeah, but he also went fucking blind.
But he died wealthy.
Yeah.
And he came from money. Da Vinci, on the other hand, who's my patron saint of the artists, Da Vinci, he always has some money issues.
I feel like if you're I think Michelangelo might be the exception to the rule because every artist that I've ever read about or aspired to be like has always had money issues, and they've always had emotional issues. My favorite photographer of all time, Eugene Smith, was a fucking psycho. He didn't serve in World War II. He photographed World War II. He got injured while photographing for the Navy in the Pacific Theater. He had a family which he did not provide for. He essentially abandoned his family, but he is widely regarded as one of the most prominent photojournalists, photographers, artists to ever live. I read his 500-page biography. Heartbreaking, but amazing.
Just 500 pages?
It's more than 500 pages. And
ain't shit.
It's insane. It's so sad, but he's like, they did a documentary on him, sort of. They did a documentary like in the 90s called Eugene Smith Photography Made Difficult. And it's kind of like a mockumentary. They had an actor dress up like him and play his life. But they did a recent documentary called Eugene Smith's the Jazz Loft as told by Eugene Smith. And it's about Eugene Smith. He had a jazz loft in the late 60s and 70s in the Flower District in Manhattan.
Where's that at?
Right by the gym now, actually. It's on 26th Street and 6th Avenue.
That's called a Flower District?
Yeah, well, the flowers are. Yeah, if you walk through 28th Street, if you walk through 27th, 28th, 26th, 27th, 28th Street in Manhattan, those are all flower retailers. They all sell flowers and fake trees and all that shit. But he had a loft that faced 6th Avenue, and it was, the 60s and 70s, so not a great area, the West Side, right? The building was pretty much dilapidated, and...
Hold up.
Yep. Go. So he lived in the Flower District. His building was dilapidated, but what was great about his building was that he had his studio on one floor, and on the floor, I believe below him, there was a guy whose name was Hall Overton, very famous in the jazz community. And this documentary, which I saw last year and I own on iTunes, it's fucking fantastic. I recommend everybody go watch it. If you're into photography or art or jazz, you'll love it. He was a jazz musician, and he would have people come over to his studio and practice and rehearse. And Eugene was Smith, I'm not gonna call him Eugene like he's my buddy. He was very obsessive compulsive. He had a lot of trauma in his life. He was crazy. He was just your typical crazy emotional artist. Like his art came before everything. Yeah. He drilled holes. Right. Well, he took it to like a level where like he couldn't pay rent. He had to borrow money. Like he didn't want to do certain jobs. Like he was shooting for like Life magazine back in the day when Life was Life. All right. And he, on multiple occasions, refused to give up his photos because they wouldn't give him creative control to do the layout. Back in those days, you're the photographer. You take the pictures, you give it to the editor. The editor does the layout, and they run your pictures in the magazine. He wanted complete control. Another good example is he was commissioned to shoot a whole project on Pittsburgh. Yeah. And it was supposed to only be 2 weeks. He spent 2 years, I think, doing the project, going over budget, and he ended up with like some crazy number. Like I want to say, I'm probably super wrong, but like 15,000 images from Pittsburgh. And I have the Pittsburgh book, and it's fantastic. Like he's absolutely crazy, but he's one of the most gifted artists I've ever seen. I don't know why I resonate with him so much. I love his work. I'm obsessed with his work. I'm obsessed with him as like a person and a photographer. But like the Jazz Loft shows, like he drilled holes in the floor, put microphones in to record the sessions. They all knew he was doing it. He would come in as they were playing and he would photograph them. He has pictures of Thelonious Monk practicing the song Rudy Tooty with Hall Overton for a live performance they were going to do in Manhattan, in the city. I forget what theater they were playing at. But Hall Overton and Thelonious Monk going over Rudy Tooty over and over. He has audio recordings of them talking about it. He has photos of them practicing. He has photos of Thelonious Monk's band getting together and working on a whole album. Like, he has all these rare photos of this. It's just, it's amazing. It's just like, I've completely lost what we're talking about originally, but
doesn't matter.
If you're out there, if you're listening, whoever you are, if you're into art, if you're into anything remotely creative, check out The Jazz Loft as told by Eugene Smith. It's on iTunes.
The Jazz Loft, according to
Eugene
Smith.
According to Eugene Smith. It's fantastic. I've watched it at least 5 times since I've downloaded it. I went to the theater to watch it at some really hipster theater that I paid way too much to get into. Yeah, the Metrograph in the Lower East Side. They show really artsy films.
You ever see this one?
It's fantastic. Which one's that? Yeah, Eugene Smith Made Difficult. Yeah, that's the mockumentary where they had somebody play him. It's fantastic. I recommend you watch both of them, actually. I think you'll not learn a lot, but I think you'll see, like, the depth at which he went to achieve his goal. Like, his goal was to make photos that really told a story and that moved people. And it's so different from what photographers do now, I think, like, especially photojournalists. He took some liberties with his photojournalism that you wouldn't be able to do now ethically. Like, now you can Photoshop anything. Back then you couldn't. Back then, if you wanted to heavily manipulate something, you had to manipulate it in the darkroom, right?
Well, see, that. I guess that comes back to, like, why we're actually doing a podcast. It's not just to talk about art. I'm losing my train of thought. It's not just to talk about, like, conspiracy theories and news and aliens and government cover-ups and all this fuckery and Trump and all of that. It's just to talk about 2 guys sharing their opinion on things and letting people know what we think about stuff.
Right. I mean, we got pretty wild in this first episode.
Yeah. But we opened up and we came strong.
We went strong.
And talked about a few different things and talked about a lot of horrific things, talked about politics, talked about conspiracies, as I just said. And then we talk about art. Why? Because we're and I consider Gomez a pretty great artist.
Thank you. I think you're a great artist.
But see, it's not even about giving a title to each person. It's just about people talking about things that are on their mind. That's one thing I really enjoy about podcasting. And I think everybody should podcast. Not everybody, because some of y'all probably
crazy,
worse than us, and I think we suck right now. But hey, give us some time. We're going to improve and we're going to evolve.
That's right.
But I know once I listen back to this, I'm like, this is horrible.
Right. Nah, I think we did a pretty good job. We jumped all over the place.
Yeah, we did.
Which is fine for our, inaugural episode. But, make sure to keep tuning in. We're going to do our best to post as regularly as possible. We're recording this on a Thursday.
We're going to do 2 times a month.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
2 times a month.
2 times a month. We record on Thursday.
Unless we get some sponsors, like
hit us up.
Like, what's that?
Squarespace.
The fight soap.
Oh, fight.
Jim. What's his name?
Defense soap.
Defense soap. We know you want. No, not defense soap. What's the other one?
No, defense soap.
I'm gonna leave this right here.
What?
Oh, God damn it!
What are you talking about?
Gotta edit that shit. I don't know.
So thank you for joining us on this very up and down conversation. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm fighting allergies, so I didn't talk much.
Yeah, and this
sound
is
like crap.
This is our first adventure into a joint duo podcast.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep this super loose and super casual. So we're just gonna continue this with another episode at another time, different topics, maybe some similar topics, but we look forward to recording another episode for you guys.
Yes, 2 times a month on Thursdays. We're going to come at you with news, current events,
and the general fuckery.
Strange news, fuckery, and art. Always going to come at you with art and share like latest exhibits, projects that we're working on, whether it be like professional or personal projects, and maybe even advice, when it comes to being a professional artist. Because I know a lot of people out there, at least some people ask me about, how do I maintain life as a professional artist?
It's not easy.
It's not easy, but it is doable
and rewarding
and very rewarding. Just gotta stay focused. But yeah, I guess that's it.
Great. I guess if you wanted to follow us on social media,
we have none at the moment. But
as a joint duo, we don't. But if you wanted to follow us individually, you can follow John on Instagram at
Art by Smalls,
and you can follow me on Instagram at Stephen Gomez, and that's Stephen with a PH, not a V. You don't want to fuck with that guy.
You just lost everybody right there.
It's all right. They'll figure it out. If they can't do the PH, they're not worthy to follow me anyways.
It's Stephen Gomez.
Stephen, not Stephen.
_ Stephen Gomez.
That's right, Stephen. But you can call me Stephen. We keep it casual around here. All right, folks. See you later, freaks.
Peace.